Welcome to another News of the Week episode. So, as we are now 10 days away from the first match that is going to be kicking off in the MLS is Back tournament, we'll start seeing some teams that have arrived in the ESPN Worldwide Sports Complex, and that FC Dallas is one of those teams as they become the third team to arrive in Orlando after the Quakes did it a couple of days ago, and the same goes with Orlando City. There are also some teams that have delayed their arrival. NYCFC is one of them as they delayed their arrival until July 2nd. And I've also just heard a couple of hours before I started this recording that Minnesota United is now on their way to Orlando, and soon they are going to be becoming the fourth team to arrive in Orlando. So throughout these next couple of days, we are going to start seeing teams that is going to arrive in Orlando for this MLS is Back tournament. And I think this is also a good time for me to kind of clarify in terms of what I think about this MLS is Back tournament. So I know I've been saying about the situation in Orlando in the past couple of News of the Week episode. I talk about how things are really looking grim in Florida and in the Orlando area, with cases continue to spike up. And then we also heard about the situation at the Orlando International Airports and how their employees got tested positive for the virus, and it was a large amount of them, and that there was some misinformation about this. Well, here's the thing. As much as I want this tournament to come back, or as much as I want this tournament to start, and I want MLS to come back after a couple of months of downtime, I am not going to be disappointed at all if they are going to announce in the next couple of days saying that we're going to either push back this tournament or we're going to relocate this tournament because of the situation that is going on in Florida. And then, in other words, I never said that no matter what kind of circumstances it is, even if we have like a huge spike of cases in the Orlando area or in Florida, we must play on this MLS is Back tournament. I have never said that, and I know that there are some people that think that I said it, and that I have kind of that thoughts with the way that I've been really want this tournament to start. The bottom line is, I just really want the players to feel like they are safe throughout this tournament, and that I understand there is definitely a lot of risk that is going to happen in this MLS is Back tournament. And, in a logical kind of world, I think MLS might be do the right thing and think about either delaying this tournament or moving to somewhere else. But since right now MLS hasn't really made an announcement of whether or not if they're going to do that, this tournament is going to continue. And people also forget, the MLSPA actually agree on this. And as much as you can blame MLS all you want in terms of them decided to not relocate the tournament or decide to push back the tournament, you also got to blame the MLSPA for this, because they agree on this situation in terms of that CBA that was ratified a couple of weeks back. So yeah, again, just a little bit clarification for those that might think that I really want this tournament to happen, but it's really that I just waiting to see what MLS is going to do, and that, again, I won't be surprised or disappointed if MLS decided that, we're going to either push this tournament back because of the spike of coronavirus cases down in Orlando, or we are going to relocate to somewhere else. Now, a second Rapids player has been tested positive for COVID-19, while a DC United player who previously tested positive is now out of 2-week self-isolation period. Again, we're going to continue to hear more cases of players that is going to be tested positive now that most of these teams is in the tournament. And that it's good, the fact that DC United player is now out of that self-isolation window, and I'm assuming he's allowed to join the team to do full team training. And then, as I said before, I think what MLS is going to do in terms of this MLS is Back tournament is that once you are tested positive for COVID-19, whether if you're a player or a staff, they either are not allowed to participate in that tournament anymore, or that they're basically just disqualified from this tournament, or the fact that they're going to have to be self-isolated for 2 weeks until they can, of course, resume and join their team back in this tournament. And the reason why I don't know whether if that is going to be the case is that there's really no official announcement, or MLS hasn't really clarified the fact that, if a player does get tested positive for coronavirus, what's going to happen? Is he going to be automatically not eligible anymore for this tournament, or the fact that he's going to be self-isolated for two weeks before he can rejoin the team for the rest of the tournament? So we shall see what kind of protocol that is as we get closer to the tournament. But now moving away in terms of the COVID-19 talk, let's talk about Alexi Lalas. Because, Alexi Lalas, I know many people really do not like him, and I'm one of those person that definitely despise Alexi Lalas, and he is considered one of my most hated person that is involved MLS and US Soccer. Well, guess what he decided to do this week? He once again decided to be at the center of controversy, and that he decided to tweet a very controversial tweet a couple of days ago talking about the national anthem, and that I think he mentioned how it takes courage to stand up at the national anthem, which not only the fact that that is a very confusing tweet, but knowing the fact that when the world that we are living in right now, and that there's been a lot of kind of protest that is going on with the Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd protest, and also that kind of issue has reignited the situation of the fact that, whether or not if players are allowed to take a knee when the national anthem is going to be taking place. And that I've also seen a lot of those European Soccer League, in the beginning of the game, they of course take a knee for a couple of seconds to acknowledge the Black Lives Matter movement. It has now reignited the situation about whether or not if it's okay for players to take a knee while the national anthem is going to play. And, with him tweeting this out, there was definitely, not only, as I said, a lot of confusion, but it definitely led to a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of backlash from not just fans alike, but a lot of players have actually openly speak out against Alexi Lalas and saying that he's completely clueless of what he's exactly do. And as much as when I saw that tweet and I was very angry about it, I even tweeted out my own of how I'm just absolutely baffled of what he said. At the same time, I'm not surprised the fact that he decided to put that controversial tweet. And to kind of go a little bit away from talking about this issue and just being political, because I know this is whenever I get to the political point, that's when the dislike is going to happen in terms of this video. I'm not surprised the fact that he has tweeted out these kind of controversial tweets, because he has a history of saying some of the most controversial thing and has faced a lot of backlash of it. And that, my biggest example of some of the things that he has says, or really not just something he has says, but as a Quakes fan, he is basically public enemy number one in terms of Quakes fans when they think of who exactly is their most hated person that's involved with the Quakes, because Alexi Lalas is the mastermind in terms of moving this team from San Jose to Houston back in 2006, and of course robbing us that 2 MLS Cup that the Houston Dynamo won in 06 and 07, and that I think there was even a video a couple of years ago where when Alexi Lalas actually they kind of did a little selfie video of some of the ultras basically yelling "fuck you, Lawless" and stuff like that. It just basically shows you how the Quakes fan base have not forgot what happened in 2006, and that there is definitely a lot of hatred toward him. So, the bottom line is, I just think that eventually, with so many controversial kind of thing that Alexi Lalas have said over the years, it's going to be at a point where I won't be surprised if he's going to cross that line. And that I really think some of the controversial thing that he's been saying over the years has really put him on thin ice. And, in today's day where a lot of people that is involved in the media, and that if you just say something that seems very offensive, and that people would really feel like it's kind of very offended, you can easily lose your job, and that you're basically going to be forced to resign. And I won't be surprised if Alexi Lalas, if he continue to do what he does right now, I won't be surprised it's just going to get to a day where the fans and the media is going to pressure him to resign because of some of the controversial topics that he of course tweeted out or he mentioned on national television. Now, moving away from kind of doing a little bit of a mini rant in terms of talk about Alexi Lalas, to kind of talking about some good news, at least if you're an Atlanta United fan, because Joseph Martinez have actually released a video of him gently kicking a soccer ball, and, obviously, that's definitely great news to see that Joseph Martinez is doing very well throughout the recovery process, although, I guess this is also where the bad news has to come to Atlanta United fans, is that as much as you see your beloved player that is doing well in terms of recovery period, he is still a long way before he can, of course, get back onto the pitch. I think, it's going to take at least another couple months before he is back to full fitness. And then if I'm Atlanta United, I know what happened after this tournament, whether if the season is going to prolong into November or December, but whatever happens to Atlanta United, they got a big decision that they're going to be making at the end of the year if the season is going to prolong into December, of whether or not if they're thinking about bringing Joseph Martinez back, because the last thing I think Atlanta United should do right now is to rush him back. I know he's the heart and soul of this team, and that, right now in the early season, although we haven't really seen the effect of them not having being Joseph Martinez has really cost them some points. You have definitely seen the effect of the fact that this Atlanta team just doesn't look like as the same and just doesn't look as good as when they had Joseph Martinez on the pitch. And I know it's easy for them to just immediately rush him back, but if you rush him back and he get injured, re-injured again, if you rush him back too soon, yeah, that could be a catastrophic kind of thing to do, and it can really affect his career and the use that Atlanta can use him in the future. So, as much as I know Atlanta United fans are happy to see him doing very well in terms of his recovery, and I definitely wish Joseph Martinez a very speedy recovery, I really hope Atlanta does not do what some teams might easily tempted to do, and that is just rush him back so that they can have him for a playoff push or having a MLS Cup run near the end of this year. Now, sticking with Atlanta United, Atlanta have also linked with Paraguay attacker Eric Lopez from Olympia, and I won't be surprised if they decided to sign him, whether or not if he's going to be a designated player or a TAM player, because that's what Atlanta United does. They always go to South America looking for those hidden gems and bring them into MLS to develop them before selling them off for a profit. And when they decided to get Eric Lopez, I won't be surprised if there's going to be some comparison from him to Miguel Almiron, knowing the fact that both of them are from Paraguay, and that, he might be not playing in the same position as Miguel Almiron is, but knowing the fact that, again, since he is Paraguay, and that some people think that he might be kind of like the next Miguel Almiron for Atlanta United, that's why maybe that's the comparison that they, of course, will get him. But other than that, I don't really know a bunch about him, but I have a feeling he must be a great player, because anytime when Atlanta United is linked with a South America player, usually they are some of those hidden gems that they are going to get him to develop into their club before selling him off a profit for in the near future. Now, we have had some signings that has happened this week, and one of the signing is Inter Miami. So they actually have signed a player, but unfortunately it's not a player that you thought that they were going to sign, and that this kind of came into a little bit of a surprise, but at the same time it isn't really, because they decided to sign Brek Shea via free agency, and that you knew Brek Shea would eventually find a way to be with a team. I mean, as much as he is kind of a troll of MLS and that he's kind of like a journeyman, you knew eventually he's gonna join a club, even though, there's been a lot of memes and a lot of troll that talks about Brek Shea. But all kidding aside, I do kind of feel bad for this kid a little bit, because I think people forgot that when he was with Dallas a couple of years ago, he was actually a very decent player. And then when he decided to join the Whitecaps and take that next step, yeah, things did not quite work out for him, and that he's been kind of an afterthought a little bit. Now, when he was with Atlanta, he kind of rediscovered his form a little bit, albeit he was playing in a fullback position, which is a complete different position that he started his career from. And I wonder when Inter Miami is going to get him, whether or not if he's going to be in the starting 11. But otherwise, it's great to see Brek Shea at least signing with another team and maybe get another chance to kind of rediscover his career, and that hopefully he can eventually live up to his potential that he was so highly rated a couple of years ago when he was with FC Dallas. Winston Reid has officially joined SKC, and that he has now actually joined SKC at training, which means that it looks like SKC is going to, or Winston Reid is going to be available for this MLS is back tournament, and I think that's great news for Sporting KC, knowing the fact that the back line is a big issue heading in this tournament, and having Winston Reid, barring if he is going to be staying healthy throughout the tournament, and I want to reiterate barring, because this is a guy that has had a lot of issue in terms of staying healthy throughout his career, and especially throughout his time with West Ham, and it was really one of the reasons why he kind of fell out of favor at West Ham and now have to come to MLS to kind of rediscover his career a little bit. But barring any injury for him, I think this is definitely a decent signing for SKC, and he's going to really help that back line that desperately needs some help in terms of getting this SKC team to the next level. Marky Delgado have also signed a new long-term deal with Toronto FC. Not a big surprise whatsoever. Marky Delgado is one of those players that I feel like he's going to be with TFC for a very long time. He is very well loved there with TFC, and that's great to see that he is now going to be staying there long term, and that, as I said, I think he's going to be there for a very, very long time with the way that he's been with this club for many, many years now. And finally, the last news of this week actually doesn't involve with MLS, but it kind of involved the Las Vegas Light, which is kind of one of the craziest club in USL. Well, they are actually now report to hire Frank Yallop as their new head coach after Eric Wynalda was let go from them a couple of weeks back. And at this point, you know what? I won't be surprised if Wondolowski retire after this year, that somehow Wando is going to join the Las Vegas Light and either become a player or a player coach with this team, because for whatever reason the Lights always love to get some of our former Quakes player or managers from our club, and that I won't be surprised that that is going to be the case. But all kidding aside, I wonder if this is going to work out. I mean, Frank Yallop, he's been around MLS for a very, very long time now. Like, it's hard to believe that I think he's only still in his late 50s, but he's been around MLS since the early days of this league history, and that, previously he was the general manager for Fresno FC, and there was actually a lot of reports saying that since Fresno FC is no longer a team, and that he is actually thinking about moving the team to Monterrey and moving closer to his home, that is exactly what he's going to do, rather than actually taking a coaching role with the Las Vegas Lights. So it's interesting that of course is the case, but I wish him the best in terms of being with the Lights, and that, for Eric Wynalda, I wonder what his career is going to look like. And, for people thinking, how in the world did Wynalda actually let go of him, and that people thought that the Lights and Wynalda has a good relationship. No. Anytime Eric Wynalda is involved, whether he's a coach or a player, he's going to probably do some controversial thing that eventually get him fired. And I won't be surprised he probably did some very controversial thing, or kind of say some kind of bad remark that eventually got him let go of the Las Vegas Light. And in some way, I can kind of compare him to what Alexi Lalas is, where he is a guy that isn't really well loved in terms of MLS fans and US soccer fans. But the only reason why I do like Wynalda a little bit better than Alexi Lalas is that at least Wynalda actually was a foundation for the Quakes, and he wasn't really a guy that kind of betrayed the Quakes like what Lalas did back in 2006 when he decided to move the team from San Jose to Houston, and also aforementioned robbing us 2 MLS Cup that Houston won in 2006 and 07. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the news of the week. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these news, and if I haven't mentioned any, or if I have missed any news that has happened in the last couple of days and I didn't put it on the board, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.